Hey guys, this is my honest review on Punch-Out for the NES Classic. Now for start, I haven't played this game since I was a kid. This was my favorite game though on the NES, on the original NES. It was just my favorite game. So it just seemed right that this was the first game I played on the NES Classic when I got it. And I didn't do too well, but it was still fun to play. Now, the review part on it was they took out Mike Tyson. I guess it was probably a license issue or something like that. And then they added Mr. Dream to it. But still, in general, it was all about the same people. Everything was about the same. The one problem I had was getting used to the controller on the NES Classic. Now, I've been playing the NES Classic for a few days now and some other games, so I've been getting a little more used to it. But when I was a kid, you used to have to run over a truck with your NES controller just to get some of the buttons to work. There was always kind of like a delay, in which I was still used to that delay here. But every time I would hit the button to dodge, he dodges right away. So it was a little different from when I was a kid. But still, fun game. Brought me back to a lot of childhood memories, which we didn't have internet back when I was a kid when we played this. To learn people's techniques when you're boxing somebody or something like that. You used to just go to your friend's house and they would know, like, well, if somebody winks or does this, this is when you hit. You learned it from playing the games. You didn't have YouTube and all that back then. So I kind of went in, because like I said, I haven't played the game in so long. I didn't want to go in and looking at tips and tricks videos on how to play it. I kind of wanted to go back into my own memory of what I still remembered on defeating the boxers. And I can't remember his name. He's later on. He is the Asian boxer, but his name's like something Honda. Yeah, he was always the one I had the problem with. And still, to this day, the one I still have problems fighting with is the second Honda. Even the first one kind of gives me some hell. But, yeah, besides the controller, though, it's a lot smaller. They made these controllers for the NES Classic a lot smaller than what the original ones were, so it kind of makes it a little hard to play. The NES Classic, I do believe, is a fun little system. I just wish they would have picked some better games on there. When I was a kid, I never really played Bubble Bobble, which I know it's a well-known game, but wasn't one we rented as a kid. And then they have games on here like Super C, which is Contra. When I was a kid, we never played Super C. It was always Contra. We played the first one. Double Dragon 2 was on here, which I did try that a few days later after I played this. And I didn't, yeah, Piston Honda, he was the one I always had problems with. But, played Double Dragon 2, which I used to be really good at, but I kind of forgot pretty much the controls and how to play it. But with some of the games, like with, Double Dragon, you know, and they didn't put Double Dragon 1 on here, it was only Double Dragon 2. Super C instead of Contra, but they put games like Bubble Bobble. You know, they were missing a lot of games on here, like Paperboy. That was a game I always remember playing when I was a kid. Everyone had it. The good thing is you do got the Marios on here, which, you know, is classic. Everyone loves Mario. And then they had Zelda and then Adventures of Link, which both were really fun, good games, but they were hard. I never got far playing either one of those. I remember when I was a kid, a buddy of mine who was my next door neighbor, he used to get really far into Zelda, and I never really could. So, I mean, it's still, I mean, even while games back then, they were a lot harder than what they were now. I mean, the good thing is what you got, it was, even if a game was so bad, like they have Ghosts and Goblins on here, on this NES Classic, which is actually deemed as one of the hardest games on the Nintendo Entertainment System. but they for some reason put that game, which a lot of people didn't even really like. And then Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which was another one that was on here and a lot of people didn't really like. But, you know, I mean, it was still fun. When we were kids, though, we'd play a game. It wasn't really about beating it. It was just something new. It was different. I mean, when I was a kid, we had an Atari at one point. And then we got an NES. So it was something that was a little more detailed with graphics, considering how the Atari used to look. Now, the other thing what I do like about this is, with, you know, like I said, with getting used to the controls, because there was always a delay back in the day, and buttons stuck a little more, how they were a little more accurate. So when you get used to the buttons, they weren't so bad. But I guess just because of how the videos were back then and how the game was, you know, you will have the black sides on the screen. So if you're trying to make this a full screen video, if you record, you're not really going to have that. The the save feature on here, I know there is a save feature. I did try saving a game the other day, because we were playing Dr. Mario, and we actually got pretty far into it, and we tried to save it, but then whenever we turned the system off and back on, later on, it was gone. So it was either I didn't save it right, or it shuts it off as soon as you turn the machine off. I do know they have hacked NES Classics that have like 850 games, and they even sell them on eBay. People show you videos on how to hack them, but it's just finding the NES ROMs is kind of like a whole... It's kind of like a whole iffy thing right now with the Nintendo and their whole company and lawsuits, so a lot of people ain't wanting to really show where to get NES ROMs and everything to hack on your system. But I'm thinking I might go the route of actually buying one that's preloaded, because hey, you go on eBay, you can buy them. You can buy them with like 850 games to like 1200 games. But I've learned that if you buy one of the ones with the 1200 games on it, a lot of them are fan-made games. They're not really classic old games. Like, I want the old Ninja Turtles game, which I sucked at that game. I could never get past the dam and the water stage. But it was still a fun game to play when I was a kid. This was like a lot of childhood memories. I think this has honestly been one of my favorite systems that's came out in a long time. I mean, because I hooked up my N64 the other day. Even found out how to record my N64 if I wanted to. I just have to buy a little HDMI converter, which is about $13. But playing a game like that on HD TV, it's really hard to mess with. You got to mess with the brightness of your TV. It's kind of a pain. And even when I turned the brightness and everything up, playing something like Bond GoldenEye 007 was really hard to play. It looked kind of horrible. But it was still fun, though. I was able to get on there. I was able to play it. You know, you can kind of get through it with your TV. But it's kind of a pain in the ass. So, I mean, like I said, I pulled out my NES Classic. I pulled out my N64. Just started kind of going old school gameplay crazy from when I was a kid. Now, I did want to put together a clip of all different games from the NES Classic, but I figured instead of doing little mini clips on one video, I was going to talk for a little bit on one video, and then just let the video play out if someone wants to watch the rest of it or not. But, you know, like I said, I didn't do too great. None of the videos I post with this will be too great. Some might even be a couple minutes long, because there was some, I just can't play them like I used to. A little different. But still, it was fun memory lane. And when I buy one of those NES Classics, which is going to be a little while, because, you know, being an adult in life comes first, so gotta pay bills first. But I want to get one of the ones with the 850 games on it. I want to play some of the old games. And supposedly on there, they have a fast reset, which is involving holding select and hitting down on the D-pad which is pretty cool because then you don't have to get up each time, because on this, you got to hit reset. Well, with that hack, it makes it where you don't have to get up from your chair to reset the system. That alone is almost worth it. But, you know, and that was the one thing when we were kids too. Everyone knew the trick. There was the blowing it, because the system would never work on an NES. Games were always like freezing, fuzzy. There was always some glitch going on. Everyone had their technique of pushing down on the game 5 times on a solid blood moon night, pulling the game out, blowing the dust out, barely putting the game in, and then shoving it down real fast, hitting the power switch at the same. You know, everyone had their technique. But, you know, that was what was cool about this. You play the game, you're good. Now, when we were kids, I did play Kirby a lot on a Game Boy I had, because it was a game I got for Christmas or something one year. And Kirby was, you know, it was a fun game. I had that and a Mario game. But the Kirby game on the NES Classic, I did notice it kind of lagged a little. It was fun still playing it. I got pretty far into it before I finally quit. But the Kirby game, I did notice out of the games I've been playing, it lags. It has a little lag to it. But not horribly bad, but it was just sometimes it did it when you really didn't want it to. But so far, I've noticed that the games work pretty well. I'm still messing with a lot of the settings. You know, I found this setting for the screen resolution to be kind of the best. And the good thing is, it running HD like this, I was gonna buy an Elgato just to be able to record and play a lot of these games, but then I figured out that I could just do it from my crappy Roxio and still have it in HD, so which is, you know, pretty good. I didn't have to spend no extra money, which I didn't really want to anyway. So it worked out better in my favor. So, yeah, this is just kind of like, it's a fun system. It's just a little getting used to it. Like I said, back in the day, you used to have to like do a flying elbow drop off your bunk bed when you were a kid onto the control button just to make it punch. As for now, buttons are pretty spot on, because I know with like Bald Bull, when he would do his charge at you, you really had to get the timing of hitting that button to punch him in the stomach to knock him down. But on this, there wasn't really no timing. Right when he ran it and he was right at the spot to you, you just hit the button and he would go down. So, I mean, it was pretty cool. It got the timing and everything down a little better than how the old NES was. But, you know, when you're old school like me and you're so used to the old control, how it was, you know, it's a little difficult. But, yeah, so this is Punch-Out, though. So, you guys want, you can continue to watch the film. But I'm done talking with it. I'll just let it play out and do what it does. Thanks for watching, guys. Sharing a little memory lane with you from when I was a kid.